Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee, I got my vape. Let's talk a little. Today, I want to talk about that nasty word goals. Are goals bad? Some say they are. I'm not going to bridge this topic without a big old sip of coffee. I found there are polarized sides to this subject. On the one hand, you've got those heavy goal seekers who say if you don't set a goal, then you're never going to achieve anything in life. You've got to set your goal, keep your eye on it, and go until you achieve it. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who say goal seekers got it wrong. Most people can't achieve what they want in life by following goals and keeping their eye on goals. Life is a lot more subtle. You're going to fail if you do that. Well, I can see both ends of that argument. For me, I think the problem is how we define goals. Now, with most people, when you tell them to set a goal, they're thinking of what I call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. That is something huge. That's where you want to go. You can't possibly achieve it right now. You see somebody doing what you would like to do as well as they do and at that level, or you're heavily in debt and you just want to get out of debt. You want to get control of your spending. Well, rather than defining goals as one thing, I tend to put them in two categories. You've got the big mountain goal and you've got the river goals. The big mountain goal is exactly what it sounds like. That is your BHAG. That is something that you can see from a far away and is just insurmountable. Myrna and I spend a lot of time in Colorado in the mountains vacationing. She actually comes from the San Luis Valley, which is this big valley surrounded by mountains. Unless it's really foggy, you can see those mountains from across the valley. And if you want to go to one town or the other, you point yourself towards that mountain. The problem is that if you try to go as the crow flies and just head directly towards that mountain, you're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit trees and houses and schools and streets and highways and grocery stores and all kinds of things. But without those mountains, you wouldn't have the point of reference to say, well, this town is over there by that mountain. This town is over there by that mountain. And that's the way it is with mountain goals for me. It is that BHAG. It's where you want to be. It's something that you can't achieve right now, but gosh, you just have to get there someday. If you get lost, you can always look at that mountain and it's going to be a reference point that you can make sure that you're going in the right direction. But you can't keep your eye on it all the time. It has to be that reference point. It has to be that thing that you look at every once in a while and you kind of gauge, am I closer to the mountain? Because they get bigger and they look different as you get closer. They even change colors. And the same thing with BHAGs. If you just set your eye on that BHAG and that is the only thing that you think about, I've got to achieve that BHAG. As a bass player, it could be compared to, learning a song that's got an incredible bass part, great bass player, and I want to sound exactly like they do. I want to be as great as they are. So I sit down and I try to play the song, but I can't do it. Well, the more I try to just play that song, the more I'm going to get frustrated. That's what happens to a lot of people. They try to be perfect at it right away and they get frustrated. Most people will quit. There's a lot of people that actually do achieve goals by doing that. They're just stubborn enough. They just set their eye on that goal and go no matter what. I got to tell you, it's doable, but that is a miserable journey. And I'm all about enjoying life. So that brings us to the second goal type, and that's rivers. Rivers are made of water. If you know anything about plumbing, water will run downhill. It wants to find the lowest level that it can. That's what happens to a mountain river. It might just start off as melting snow, but it's going to follow gravity and go downhill. It's not thinking, I'm going to hit this one spot at the bottom of this mountain. No, what it does is it runs until it hits an obstacle. Then it figures out, can I go over it, around it, or through it? And that's what it does. It hits a big giant rock, and then it goes around that rock. So it's kind of like setting smaller goals day by day by day. As that water joins with other water and rolls downhill, it's going to pick up speed. It may not make it all the way down the mountain. It may hit an obstacle that it can't go around or through or over, and then it might become a lake. So that can be a problem if you're only focusing on the rivers, on those little day-by-day goals, and you don't have a BHAG, then you never know where you're going to wind up. And you might get to a point that you could probably push through if you knew that your destination was that dang old mountain, but you wind up settling at that one place below where your goal would be. Now, you're going to live life happily, probably in that little lake, but it's definitely not going to be the mountain. All this talk about rivers and lakes are making me thirsty. I'm going to have me another sip. All right, I think we got the concept. Let's say you got a trash can across the room and you want to throw a piece of paper into it. Anybody who's done any writing before the age of he sees know that you ball up a lot of paper. Your goal is to get that piece of paper into that trash can, nothing but net. So you rear up and you let that paper ball fly. Well, guess what? It lands short. So what are you going to do? Are you going to say, okay, that's good enough? A lot of people do, but not me, because my goal wasn't to get that piece of paper out of my hand. That goal was to get it into the trash can, nothing but net. So what I do is I'll go over and I'll pick that dang old piece of paper up and I will adjust. At this point, I'm no longer focused on my BHAG, which is to get that paper in the trash can, nothing but net. My goal is to get that piece of paper into the trash can. I didn't throw it far enough, so I'm going to throw it a little bit further. Dang, I overshot the can. So I'm going to pick it back up. Now my goal is, again, I'm going to not throw it as far. I adjust, and eventually I'll get that piece of paper in that trash can, nothing but net. The more I do that, the more momentum's going to kick in and muscle memory, then I'm going to be able to get any piece of paper that I want to in that trash can, and I've achieved my BHAG. Now, if I was only focused on getting the piece of paper in the trash can, again, everybody, nothing but net, and I didn't make adjustments, then I would continue to miss the trash can, and momentum is going to kick in the wrong direction. The things that I did that kept me from being able to achieve my goal are going to amplify, and that's going to be my normal. Just going to keep on. Now, I might make it by mistake one time. Even a blind squirrel can find a nut once in a while. But I'm never going to get good at throwing that stupid piece of paper at that dang old trash can. I will now never again say trash can, nothing but net. And to celebrate that, let's take a sip of coffee. Another argument that people have that don't like goals is that it affects your self-image. You can't help it. If we don't achieve a goal that we've set for ourselves, we beat ourselves up. We don't think we're good enough. We may even say, oh, I'll never be able to do that anyway. Who needs to put that paper in the... Oh, I almost said it again. That is another reason why I have the mountain and the river goals. I don't know if you've ever been driving and you look at something like a big giant mountain and you're driving closer and closer. If you're just focused on that mountain, it seems like you're never going to get there. But if you only look up at it every once in a while to gauge, you'll be surprised how much closer you've gotten each time you look. That's very, very important. You need to gauge your progress, but it's also important to take pride in those little river goals. As I've told you before, when I was first playing bass, I had a hard time practicing. And this was one of the main reasons, because I wanted to be great. I wanted to play the songs just like the person played them, and then I wanted to be able to play other things as good as they did. And so I would start playing it, and I didn't get it good. I would get discouraged and I would quit. The more and more that I did that, every time I thought about practicing, I would just have this sinking feeling and I would find something else to do. I don't know at what point I changed my thinking, but I realized that if I slowed the songs down and I took them segment by segment and learned those segments so that I could reincorporate it in the song and I could continue the song, that was actually fun. At that point, I was no longer focusing on that song. I was focused on that small goal that I could definitely achieve. Once I got that piece where it was fast enough and it was smooth enough that I could play it in the song, I actually felt as good about myself as I did once I finally learned the whole song. Each time that I slowed something down and I started playing it until I could play it smoothly at that speed, that was another goal. That was another rock that I was going around. That was another celebration. Then I would speed it up, and that was another goal. Once I achieved that, I celebrated that too. A lot of those lines that I was practicing later became lines that I used all the time, because by the time I actually got it up to speed, I had learned it and it was part of my regular repertoire. Here's a quote that I really like a lot by Thomas M. Stern. At what point in the life of a flower, from seed to full bloom, is it perfect? When you're holding a seed in your hand and it's got all this potential, is it perfect then? When a sprout comes up and it busts through the ground and welcomes the sunlight, is it perfect then? When it grows into a full plant and it's nice and green, is it perfect then? When you get that bud and you look at it and it's so symmetrical, how about that? Is it perfect then? Or is it perfect when it's at full bloom and it's beautiful? Well, the answer to that question is, it was perfect at every step of the way. It was the perfect flower at the stage it was at every step of the way. And perfection for me right now would be a sip of coffee. Let's have one. So I guess my point is, yes, you have to make those BHAGs. If you don't make goals that are bigger than you can achieve, then you're not going to be where you want to be in life. But it's important to only use that BHAG as a mountain, as a point of reference to keep you on track and to keep you driving. I know for me, once I achieve that BHAG, it's kind of disappointing. The journey is over. I look back at goals that I've set in my life, and a lot of times I don't remember achieving the goals, but I always remember what I went through to get there. So it's important to have those small goals. A wise man once told me, set your goal, make a game plan, forget about the goal, and focus on the game plan. Every step of the way, focus on that step completely, but everything else out of your mind. Be completely focused on that goal. And then celebrate once you've achieved that goal. Then you look back up at the mountain. Well, where's the next goal? That's going to be that next rock that you come across. Keep your eye on that goal, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. And before you know it, you've achieved that BHAG. Then what's next? Well, the next thing for me is going to take one final sip. So what do you think about this idea of the mountain goals and the river goals? Have you ever come across that idea before? Are you a goal-oriented person? If so, have you ever found yourself so discouraged that you don't think you're ever going to achieve that goal and you just want to quit? Leave down in the comments some of the tips that you would give to be able to keep on track. If you're new to my channel, take a look around. I've got quite a few Coffees with Phil where I talk about momentum and goal setting and practicing and momentum. I already said momentum, but it's that important. And hopefully you'll find something else that you enjoy. If you do, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, how about giving me a thumbs up and maybe sharing this with somebody that you think might enjoy it as well. Make sure that you hit that ringy-dingy thing so you're notified next time I make a video. And as always, no matter what tune that life plays you, always find your groove. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next week.